Hello, everyone. Welcome to the 2026 Feds in Motion Challenge. This is the biggest fundraiser of the year for the Federal Employee Education and Assistance Fund, better known as FEA. And I am Robin Keogh, Executive Director of FEA, welcoming you and thanking you for joining us for the challenge, for getting moving, for thinking about wellness for the next month. Today is Mindful Monday, and we are going to be kicking things off shortly with a great presentation, helping us to think about our mental health and wellness. But first, I want to thank Blue Cross Blue Shield for being our platinum sponsor again this year and for just generally being an incredible support to FEA and to feds for the last 40 years. FEA is celebrating our 40th anniversary this year, and Blue Cross has been with us every step of the way, supporting all of our programs and really making it possible for FEA to make a difference in the lives of federal employees. And we're so grateful that they've done that and that they continue to do it. It is my great pleasure today to introduce to you Vanessa Hatch, who is Vice President of FEP Clinical Operations and Pharmacy Programs, Government Programs at Blue Cross Blue Shield. And Vanessa, take it away.
Rebecca Ferguson Andre is a former Fed and co-founder of WellFed, an organization with 5,000 plus members whose mission is to deliver meet you in the moment programs and experiences that cultivate a community of nourished and empowered professionals. She specializes in designing sustainable learning solutions that drive lasting impact by cultivating holistic workforce development and dynamic facilitation that fosters behavioral and organizational change.
Hi, friends. My name is Rebecca Andre. I'm the co-founder of WellFed, and I'm a former federal employee that worked at HHS. I'm so pleased to be here with you today. I want to share a little bit about myself and WellFed and the work we do before we dive into some resetting techniques that will hopefully prove to be powerful tools that you need in the moment when you're feeling that stress and overwhelm. We are WellFed. And so this is just a snapshot of some of what we provide in person and virtually for the past year. And this is just a look at our reach and what we've been providing. Every Monday, we host a mental health session because we believe that mental health is at the crux, right, of your well-being, your ability to calm yourself, your ability to manage what life is throwing at you, what is outside of your control, and to regain a sense of calm and control. So we invite you to join us every Monday at noon Eastern, and you can find the information on our website at wearewellfed.com. But enough about WellFed. Let's move forward and let's talk about you. We all face moments where we need to reset our rhythm. So what I'm sharing with you today are some tools that you can carry along your career journey that you can access and practice and become more practiced at over time until hopefully we're all experts. In those moments where you feel that sense of overwhelm, it's really challenging, right? To reach for the tools that you know how to use, but sometimes they just don't feel accessible. So today I want to present to you some tools that you can practice professionally and personally. Listen, we're all doing the best that we possibly can. It feels, for us, I don't know about you, it feels like a lot of things are on fire right now. And that can lead our nervous systems right into chaos. And so if you're feeling this way, you are not alone. And if you're not feeling this way, great. When you feel this way in the future, you're going to have some techniques that can help you reset in the moment. So today I want to just help us identify what are some personal signs of stress specific to you. I'm going to share some general ones. I also want to share, how do we understand how stress affects our tasks, our decision making, our ability to get things done. And then we're going to practice some evidence-based techniques that can help you self-regulate in less than 2 minutes. And lastly, creating a plan, which you can do on your end to help maximize these tools to understand and overcome the stress that you're experiencing. If you've experienced what we call the swirl, then what you see here on the screen is familiar to you. It's that constant uncertainty. It is emotional fatigue. It is feeling like you always have to be on. And it's the fear of the lack of safety, the experience of a lack of safety, and the fear of rejection. Our body responds to all of this. And while we may not have lions and tigers and bears, oh my, chasing us down, there are real challenges that our body sees as threats, right? Your brain is a meaning-making machine. When it's trying to make sense of the stress that you are carrying, it identifies those stressors as threats. And it can thrust your nervous system into complete chaos and turmoil. What I'm curious to know, and maybe this relates to your job, maybe this is about what's going on in your personal life, or what you see happening in the world around us. Which part, right? What is stressing you out the most these days? What are you carrying today? And I'm going to ask a bunch of rhetorical questions because I'm not live with you in the room. But I give you a minute to think about what that looks like for you. Some of us are caregivers, right? In different shapes and forms. And so some of us are parents, or we're caregiving for friends or neighbors or family members. And there is a great deal of stress that we experience in that role. Some of us might feel incredibly stressed out on the job because of uncertainty, because of the toxicity that we're experiencing. That can also thrust your nervous system into a state of chaos. And when that happens, there are different stress responses that we exhibit. There are different ways that our body responds to these perceived threats. So these are not unfamiliar to us, right? I'm just going to review some of these really quickly. The 4 stress responses that scientists have identified is the fight, right? You've heard of fight or flight. Those are probably the 2 most common in our vernacular and our understanding that are, used commonly when we talk about our nervous system. And so fight, when our body experiences that threat and responds to it, we want to push back. We want to attack the threat, whatever that is. Additionally, there's flight, where we want to outrun the threat. And maybe it's not physically outrunning it, although sometimes, right, we might feel that urge, right, that the physical urge to respond to the stress that we're experiencing. And we try to outrun it. There's also another response that we've become more familiar with as evidence and research grows around our stress responses. And that is fawn, where whether we realize it or not, our body begins to respond in a way that's trying to appease the threat. And last but not least, freezing is the 4th stress response that our bodies have, where we shut down when nothing else is working. So when stress makes us feel, right, activates the sympathetic nervous system, and here are some of the indicators. Our heart rate is impacted, our breath, right? These critical functions of our body that give us life, that help us manage. Our muscles become tense. And so if you are in real danger, then all of these responses can be incredibly helpful. It can help spur you to action, fight, flight, fawn, or it can cause you to withdraw and freeze in the moment. There are settings where this is incredibly helpful. However, for many of us, those perceived threats that we experience that are heavy in our mind, that are mounting, when our bodies respond to those perceived threats in one of these ways, it can actually be detrimental in some cases, right? It can be really, really paralyzing, or it can thrust our nervous system into chaos. And there's that sense of overwhelm that we struggle to manage well. So here's what it can look like. And I don't know about you, but these are examples are very familiar to me. When our body responds to a perceived threat with fight, then that can be seen and experienced by the people around us, like that we're in fight mode, that we snap at the people around us, right? Even though they're not the intended target, right, of this response. We might rage apply to jobs when we're angry on the job, right? And it just to feel like I'm doing something, I'm pushing back just to prove something. Or it can look like us getting combative with people who are trying to support us and offer good advice. When we are in flight mode, when we respond with flight, that it could be that like, I am so stressed at my job that I'm start panic networking and I start reaching out to people through Signal and LinkedIn, or I pull up my dusty resume, or I've been working on this, so I generate another AI version, right, a revised version of my resume, or spiraling into worst case scenarios. So this is how some of us respond when we're in flight mode. Well, when we are in fawn mode, then we might quickly post something on LinkedIn or on social media about how grateful we are, and we haven't even processed what's happened, or we might be over apologetic to people for getting upset and snapping at them and taking it on and saying, oh, I'm such a burden. The fourth way that we respond and what it can look and sound and feel like is that we're stuck. We feel paralyzed. And that might be that I'm staring at the ceiling and someone might say, what are you thinking about? And the truth is we're just stuck in our own thoughts. Or we numb ourselves to what's happening. And maybe that looks like denial, right? Because it's a self-protective response, freezing, withdrawing from people who, by the way, we typically need the most when we're feeling stressed out and overwhelmed, or canceling plans and not returning texts or phone calls and when people reach out. So of these four responses, think about for a moment, how do you respond? What is your typical response to stress and overwhelm? And how do those symptoms show up for you? When we're in the moment, when our body is in stress response mode, we often lack the awareness, right? Because our brain is powering up our defense system and is employing our sympathetic nervous system. And so we sometimes are not aware, unless we're practiced at this, we lose touch with that self-awareness of, what's going on? And why am I responding this way? So when we recognize those stress signals, it's happening, it shows up. There are physical indicators, right? We have a physical response in some way, shape, or form. And that can show up like everything gets tight and constricts because we're tensing up. Maybe we're tensing up for fight. Maybe we're tensing up for flight. But our bodies tend to tense up. Our breathing can become more shallow. In fact, One stress response is holding our breath, which actually, in the context of a lot of the stress and overwhelm we experience, we we need that oxygen. We need that oxygen to get to our brain so that we can think and that we can respond. Emotionally, we might experience irritability or dread or a sense of hopelessness. And it has cognitive impacts as well. So when we're under stress and overwhelm, we can experience the cognitive impact of racing thoughts, right? Getting caught up in the what if scenarios, the worst case scenarios, or our mind might go blank. Whatever this looks like for you, I want you to just pause and think about what is a stressful moment? And maybe you won't have to think long and hard about this. Maybe you experienced stress today. So if it happened to you today, can you recall what that looked and felt like in your body? How it impacted you emotionally? What was the cognitive impact of that stress? And if you want to write that down on a piece of paper, you can feel free to do so. I use my notes app on my phone for everything. And so you're welcome to do that too. And just take stock of what came up for you. How did it impact you physically? How did it impact you emotionally and cognitively? And is this a recurring response to stress and overwhelm? And if we were together in a classroom or even here virtually, live, I would ask you to pair up with someone, right? And so maybe if there's someone close by to you, maybe this is a conversation you can have later with a trusted friend or loved one. What are the recurring signs and feelings that show up for you in that moment? So I'll share a little bit, like an example, right? It could look like when I recall, I was stressed reading a memo I got at work, right? As soon as I'm only reading the subject line, I'm already feeling, right, everything tighten. My breath shorten and become shallow. Or maybe it's reading a news story, seeing that headline, doom scrolling. And for me, I feel this weight on my chest. It's such a weird phenomenon. What are the things that you experience often? You can circle it, underline it, underscore it, make it bold in your notes app. What are the recurring signs and feelings that show up for you in these moments? And we're not going to park here too long because maybe you're all too familiar with what the signs and symptoms are. When we are seeking to regulate our nervous system, the first step is awareness. So we want to become awake, become aware to what's happening in our bodies, because that's where we're going to experience it first, right? And then bring awareness to what I'm experiencing emotionally and cognitively. This is all completely normal. This is your body doing exactly what it's supposed to do. It's a physiological response. And these responses have been keeping humans, fellow humans, and animals of all kinds alive for all of this time, for millennia. The goal today and in the future, as you practice these methods and you practice these techniques, how you can move through your typical knee-jerk responses to stress instead of getting sucked in and having those stress responses and having it sabotage, right? The response that you want to give, the way you need to respond to the situation, how you want and need to manage your own nervous system. So I want to introduce you to the gift of the reset. It's never too late to practice this. Practice makes perfect. I'm a musician, I'm a pianist, and so I know that even while we may have some knee-jerk responses to how our bodies, our minds, our emotions respond to stress. We can practice new techniques, new ways, and the more we practice them, the more muscle memory we develop around our responses. I don't have to tell you, but a reminder on the screen is there are real benefits to this. So whether you are in a meeting with your boss, or you're going to be on an all hands, right? Or you are applying for a job, or you're going to have an interview, whatever that looks like for you, you can employ these techniques. So let's just take a beat really quickly. Now that we can identify what's stressing us out and how it shows up in our bodies, how it impacts our emotions and our cognition, then let's learn how we can shift. So what I want to share with you are some reset techniques that you can employ in 2 minutes or less. And these are some of our favorite, our well-fed team's favorites that we practice on a daily basis and need reminders around. And they're ones that we share with our fired and tired friends and community. So here are the reset techniques that we're going to explore today. The first one is called the physiological sigh. The second one is a progressive muscle release. And the third is, we call the mini viz. It's a mini visualization. And it's a little bit meditative, but you don't have to be practiced at meditation to employ this technique. So what is the physiological sigh? The physiological sigh is a technique to reset, and involves taking in 2 quick breaths through your nose and exhaling slowly through your mouth, pushing that breath out. And doing this a few times in succession. So I'm awkwardly going to do this for you now. And then you can awkwardly or not so awkwardly practice it on your own without judgment. So here's a physiological sigh. I'm going to take 2 quick breaths in. And exhale and push the carbon dioxide out. What this does, it gets oxygen to your brain really quickly. And then pushing that carbon dioxide can help alleviate some of the tension that you might be holding in your body as a stress response. Okay, so I'm going to do that one more time. When we do this, that exhale reminds me of accompanying vocalists when I was in college. And the vocal teachers and vocal coaches would coach these singers and say, waste the breath, push it out, right? There's a lot in there. Push it all the way out and pause before you take another breath in, before there's another inhale. That's called the physiological sigh. Those 2 quick breaths in and that long, slow exhale out, wasting the breath, pushing the breath out. And doing this 3 to 5 times can help you reset. It's remarkable. So don't knock it before you try it. Give it a shot. And you can let us know how that works. The second technique I want to share with you is called the progressive muscle release. Chances are many of us live with a lot of tightness. I don't know where you might be carrying stress in your body today, but chances are if you feel tight or sore in one part of your body, that's an indicator, right, that you're holding, you're constricting, you're tensing up. So your body might already be tense. What this progressive muscle release does for us, I mean, we're already in that tightness. So tensing up one muscle group at a time, focusing on that one area of our body. It could be our hands, it could be our fists. And just for 5 seconds, tensing that up so tightly and then releasing it. Gives our body permission to release some of that stress that we're holding. So releasing that tension, breathing, and then focusing on another muscle group. You may be holding tension in your body that you are unaware of. It could be in your legs. It could be in your hips or your lower back or your shoulders. So I'm going to let you choose a muscle group. For me, it's going to be my shoulders. So I welcome you to join me. We're choosing a different muscle group. We're going to tense it up for 5 seconds. It's so uncomfortable, but yet an all too familiar space. I'm going to release my breath. I'm going to release that muscle group. I didn't realize how much I was tend to tighten and raise my shoulders. You can find another muscle group. So for me, I'm going to use my legs. I'm just going to tighten and tense every leg muscle that I can possibly muster in this moment. And then relax that muscle group and exhale. By tuning into that tension and then allowing your body to release that tension, it helps you reset in the moment. I actually do this when I'm struggling to go to bed. And I don't know if any of you struggle to go to sleep, but if you do, one strategy that I use, and I do this with my kids too, when they complain that they can't go to sleep, which is often, is starting at the top of my head and tensing everything up, right, as I move through, and then releasing and relaxing. And starting from the tip of my head all the way down to the tip of my toes. I do this technique, and it's a way that I tell my body I am safe, I can be relaxed, and I can go to sleep. So that's the second of the 2 techniques. The last I want to share with you is something that we call the mini viz. And the mini viz is like a really short meditation. If you don't have access to your phone or you don't want to listen to something on YouTube or Spotify or wherever you can find meditations, a lot of sources, then you can just do this mini visualization on your own. So I'm going to pull it up here for you now. And I want to invite you to, if you're comfortable with it, even if you're uncomfortable with it, just to try, just to close your eyes. I'm going to read through this mini visualization for the next 2 minutes. Okay. So I invite you to close your eyes, and I want you to imagine your life is a long timeline stretching out far in both directions. The timeline is underneath you. You are above this timeline. See where you are right now along that timeline. There's a small point on this timeline, on this day, in this moment where you find yourself. With your eyes closed, visualizing all that's behind you and all that's ahead of you. How vast this timeline is. Notice how small this moment is compared to everything behind you and everything ahead of you. Whether it is a job search or it is committing to the job, staying in the job, whatever that job is for you. Maybe it's your role as a caregiver. This moment in time is not your whole story. It's just a point on your timeline. There's so much ahead of you. There's so much behind you. I want you to take 3 slow breaths in and out as you picture the timeline widening underneath you in both directions. Take a deep breath in and push it out. Take another deep breath in and push it out. Take one more deep breath in and push it out. Keeping your eyes closed, imagine yourself 1 year into the future. You may be working, learning in the same situation or a new situation. And the future you looks back at this one moment in time on your timeline that was stressful, but now you see it with clarity and understanding. You didn't know it then, but things were aligning for you. Be patient with yourself. Trust yourself and settle into your body. Feel your body heavy, your feet heavy on the floor, whatever surface they might be on. Place a hand over your heart and remind yourself, this is temporary. This is a moment in time. And I am still moving forward. That's our mini viz. It's a brief meditation. It's something you can do on your own. It doesn't need to be guided. But picturing the timeline behind and ahead of you, letting it widen, imagining yourself in the future at a peaceful, calm moment, reflecting back on where you were, is a powerful tool to help you reset. So I invite you to lean in to this mini viz exercise. You can screenshot this. You can take a picture of it with your phone or with your camera, whatever you have nearby. You can pause it, pause the video if you want. And make sure to add this to your toolkit of ways that you can reset. Of the 3 that I shared with you today, the physiological sigh, right? Or that muscle tension release, or that mini viz. Which techniques felt most comfortable to you? Not that you can't get practice at all of them. Love that for you. But if there was one that just felt good, it got you the results you needed, it helped you reset, then keep that one closer to the surface of your toolkit, right? Keep it front of mind. So not if, but when you need it, it's accessible. Think about when this technique would be most fitting and most accessible. It doesn't always feel like you have the luxury of resetting, right? With a mini viz, right? Or that muscle tension release in the moment, maybe when you're in the office, but maybe slipping out into the restroom and doing that physiological sigh, closing the door, just taking a moment to your bedroom or to the boardroom or whatever it looks like for you. Find ways to utilize these tools that are free, that are accessible, that are tools that you can become more practiced at. when life is lifing, it can be really challenging. We think this is so funny. If you are on the job hunt, or if you've ever mistakenly sent something to a colleague, then you know the cringe that you might feel. And you can use one of the techniques to reset. When you're feeling that ick, when you're in the thick of things, just remember it can be hard for you to care for yourself, but these techniques can help you reset your brain. And you're in charge of your brain and your body. It can feel like there are so few things that we are actually in control of. And you are in charge of your brain and your body. And so when stress feels really big, and maybe those techniques I shared with you aren't enough in that moment, here are a few other ways that you can respond, right, to fight or flight. So these states, right, when we're in fight or flight, this is typically when we have this rush of energy, right, to either push back and fight or to get the heck out of there. So when you feel that energy, that additional surge of energy in your body, you can move through it. These are some of our favorite ways to move through that energy. So for some of us, it's dancing. Put a song on and dance it out. If you need a reset with the people you're caring for, put on a favorite song, put on something upbeat, and encourage them to dance. And even if you get a little head nod or something in the shoulders, little shimmy, it helps release that additional energy. For some of us, it's exercise. So when I feel stressed and my body, right, reverts to fight or flight mode, then running or walking, right, or working up a sweat is a great way for you to release that additional energy. Another great way, right, to kind of shock your system when you're feeling that influx of energy towards fight or flight is to activate the mammalian dive reflex and put cold water on your face, right? It helps with that reset. If you are someone who tends to, right, respond with fawning, then here is a way that you can respond. Here are a few ways that you can respond differently. Instead of, right, responding to that urge to fawn for people, actually being honest with someone that you trust about how you're feeling rather than putting someone else's needs before your own, putting your own needs out there in front of you and sharing it with someone, articulating that is a wonderful way for you to combat what might be a typical fawn response. Watching something that makes you laugh is good for the soul. It's good for anyone and any response. Letting yourself cry is not a weakness. Sobbing is how our bodies regulate, and you may need that release. Here's another thing you can do. Do something for enjoyment that is just for you, that has zero productivity value for you or anyone else. It actually is productive, but setting aside that goal, just allowing yourself to enjoy something like a sweet treat or the breeze or the sunlight on your face, whatever it is for you. What could it look like if instead of, right, falling into the same patterns, we try something different and we may have a different experience as a result. Last but not least, how you can reach for something different when you're experiencing your body's response, right? You're reverting to that freeze response. Getting really cozy, like taking care of yourself. So instead of withdrawing, getting cozy, getting something warm in your body, feeling a weighted blanket, some small sensory input. So it's holding something warm like a cup of coffee or tea, or maybe it's some ice water, or it's smelling something like a essential oils or a candle or lotion, whatever it might be. With our freeze response, we tend to go inward. We tend to isolate ourselves. So going for a walk with a friend might just be the antidote that you need. The other great thing is letting someone bring you some food. So when somebody asks you, if they ask you, and hopefully there are people asking you, what can I do to support you in this moment? Actually, instead of saying, oh, nothing, it's okay, I'm all right, I'll get through this, saying, you know what I could use? A little DoorDash today, right? Or some Uber Eats, or I could use a warm meal made with love, something like that. The goal for you is to set yourself up for success. So having a plan, you know the symptoms. You've already identified them. You've recalled what it feels like, what stresses you out, the way you experience stress. When you feel stress coming on, which 2-minute reset technique do you want to employ? And how can you give yourself a little bit more TLC? So I hope that is helpful for you. Thinking back, how can you free yourself from getting stuck in these modes, in these responses that are so typical, but are not always helpful? Having a game plan in mind, you can go back, you can screenshot any of those so that you have them as reminders. Keep them in your photo album, right? Or make it the wallpaper of your phone or your computer, so you have that constant reminder. Coming up with a game plan is so important to finding the calm that you need. This is a skill set. What's wonderful is that it's a skill that can be learned, practiced, and you can become so practiced at it that you become an expert, right? Practicing, practicing, practicing. And at this time, there are so many opportunities to practice when we're feeling stress. Lastly, I want to offer a few apps that you can find, download, that can help you in this journey. Insight Timer, Breathwork, and Headspace. And we don't get any kickbacks for these. We just have experienced that they're incredibly powerful tools. It needs to be accessible. So for many of us, that's on our phone. Having something on your phone, doing something routinely, whatever it takes for you to make this a habit, we want to encourage you to do it. Friends, it was wonderful to be here with you today. You can come back to this video anytime you need that reminder of these techniques or these ways to break out of the patterns of stress response. I hope that if you came hungry, that you leave well fed. And what you see here on the screen are ways that you can connect with me and our well fed team. You can scan with your phone, find us on LinkedIn, find us on Instagram, or join us through our website, which is totally free to you. I hope that you have a calm, peaceful moment as you reset and find your way forward. Thank you for joining us today.
Rebecca, thank you so much for that presentation. I know it gave me a lot to think about, more mindfulness practice, and I'm looking forward to trying some of these things out on my own over the next couple of weeks. I hope everyone who joined us today enjoyed the presentation, and I hope you'll be back again next week to join us for Wellness Wednesday. Bye.